Anywho, now might be a good time to get on to last week's Trek Tuesday. And unfortunately, last week's Trek Tuesday, it's sort of an example of not every episode of the original series was gold. I got two in. One of them is very bad. One of them is very good. The Enemy Within, not spectacular, and I think part of it's not spectacular because of in a similar way to how modern Star Trek kind of sucks. Is the message is on the is really really on the nose. And the problem is the message is on the nose and the message is not all that complicated. This is the episode where there's a transporter accident and Kirk is split into two Kirks. There's the lizard brain Kirk, um and soft loving Kirk. And the idea of the episode is that the dark side of man's nature has a purpose, but needs to be balanced out by the good in us, and blah 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 blah. But it basically just spells it out for you really really quickly in really really simplistic terms, and it's just like, oh yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, why are we taking? I don't know that you needed an hour for this. And it's also where it's episodes like this where Shatner gets his rep for overacting, and I'm sure you've seen this, "I am Captain Kirk," which has been memed to death. It's his Dark Kirk. It's really, really overdone and overblown and very it's charming in its own way because it was the 1960s, and it's that very over the top 60s acting style is what you're getting out of this episode, and it just doesn't quite work. There is one really good, I would say, effect. I'm not gonna say good, it's an effective scene where Dark Kirk shows up at Yeoman Rand's office and essentially assaults her, and it's executed well. It's very very creepy. They don't go anywhere with it. I think with more modern writing, you'd have good Kirk having to, like, over the course of the episode, prove to all of his crew that, like, I swear to God, this wasn't me. It's some sort of duplicate. But as written, they sort of everybody sort of just accepts, like, right off the get go that, oh yes, duplicate Kirk. Yes, sure. Yeah, no, yeah, yes. And they miss an opportunity to have some intercrew conflict, and really having to prove to this woman that, like, no, like, who you saw wasn't, like, I swear to God, wasn't actually me, and it doesn't really do any of that. And I was also amused, not amused is maybe the wrong word, is that after the assault sequence, Spock and McCoy and Kirk talk to her, and I'm just like, why? Like, Kirk shouldn't be by all by all standards, Kirk should not be here, and I don't know why Spock and McCoy don't know that, because as far as she knows, he just he just showed up in my quarters and acted very, very inappropriately. It's in this inquiry, it's not really appropriate that he should be here, and that struck me funny in a morbid way. That's just like, what are you doing, Spock? Like like, you should be doing conducting this interview in literally any other way than how you're doing it right now. Because you're not putting her in a great, spectacular position. But anywho, one bad episode sort of leans into a good episode with Mud's women. Very, very good. And I would say this is, I would say, one of the more famous ones. And a lot of that is you can take a good performance, and that really can define a piece of work. And Roger C. Carmel as Harry Mudd, he's sort of this lovable rapscallion, con man character. He's definitely a an archetype. He's playing an archetype, but he brings a lot of charm to it. And he's less the point of the episode as more he's less the main point, he's sort of the vector in to what they're doing with this episode is using this funny Irish con man to they're using this funny Irish con man to have a serious conversation about several different things. You've got sort of men women dynamics that it goes into because the main plot is he brings aboard three women who are all over the course of the episode we learn taking drugs in order to stay young and pretty. And in that aspect, I don't know what the plastic surgery situation was in 1966, but you certainly in 2025, 2026 could read it as a commentary on plastic surgery and the incessant need to stay looking young and beautiful and how silly that actually is. Um and I should note with Mud, there is no point where any of the crew buy into his bullshit. Like they know something is off with him, and it's you get the sense that, obviously the crew is quite intelligent for the most part. But again, a lot of stuff going on. You got commentary, commentary on the cosmetic surgery aspect, prioritizing pretty over practical, and asking that question at the end of the day, how helpful are looks really? It also, for all that in now when they do strong female character, there's a lot of focus on that she needs to be able to beat the shit out of a dude the way a man beats the shit out of the dude. And that's not necessarily how it, like, women have power, but it's in a feminine way. And the this episode is a good demonstration of, like, men around pretty women get really, really damn stupid. And ultimately, if at least my read is the pills don't do anything that physiologically affects the men on the ship. They just get real when you put them around aggressively pretty women, they kind of turn into stupid people, and that is a thing that can be weaponized, and women can have power in that way of, they're gonna a lot of these dudes are they get dumb and they'll do whatever you want. So there and so it tackles that that I think quite well. It's got a little bit of a human trafficking element in there that it's not the main point, but they make it really clear that Kirk is none too happy that of how Mudd is making his living. Um, and again, similar to like back in the past, this episode treats everyone. I would say treats men and women both fairly. Ultimately, they end up on this mining planet because they need these crystals to power the doodads, and the miners on the ground. And this is where the trafficking element comes in. Mud essentially trades these women to these guys on the ground, and it sort of leans into eventually they figure out that there's one main guy, and they figures out, oh, they're taking this pill, and that's what's making them viddy. I was not sold on blah blah. And that sort of gets you into the rest of the episode, and the point is made, at least the dude, the miner on the ground, makes the point that as far as men go, it's like we die more in wars, we have to do the dirtiest jobs, we're more likely to die on those jobs. How, like, is it such a crime to want to come home to someone who's pretty, essentially? Which is, I giving a fair question to the guy, but the main of the trio of women, the blonde main blonde woman there, like, makes the very fair point of how helpful is it really? We're on this crap hole planet trying to build a life. Is it helpful for do you want me as a brainless, gussied up person all the time? Or do you want somebody who's like gonna be actually helpful in doing things? Like, maybe your priorities are not in the right place. So it gives fair credence to both, and ultimately I think the woman has the better point in the episode, but it's again, it's not I don't think that the dude half of this argument is not presented as evil or terrible. It comes from a life experience which he is living. And that's again the brilliance of original Star Trek. I do have one point of contention. The end of the episode, Kirk gives her a placebo drug, and so she demonstrates in a fit of like frustration, just like, you want this, and she has the pill, and it makes her pretty again, and you find out later it's not the real thing, it's a placebo. And it's just like, I don't know that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I don't given what this original drug does, I have doubts that a fake version would have the same physiological effects. I have questions about that, and I also think it undercuts the message just a little bit. It's doing this like, "You were beautiful all along" type of thing, and that's not really what the message of the episode is supposed to be. The message of the episode is how important when you're living a hard life, how important is that really? So it's overall a very strong episode of television, touching a lot of things, but I do think it sort of undercuts itself a little bit in the end.